The new improved Parmalat Fabulite fat-free yogurt.
Man, this is going to be so good. Bob is even like standing at attention.
Like,
His ears are like, ooh, I want to know all about this. So let's take a look at our top 10. At number 10, Didier Drogba, of course, world-famous, well-known football player. He was diagnosed with malaria, and after a high fever that forced him off a Chelsea game that he played in October of 2010, he underwent treatment for just 48 hours before playing another full game of 90 minutes that Chelsea actually won.
Gotta get paid. You gotta get paid, man. Number 9, Julian Huxley, the former Brumbies fullback. He returned to rugby after having a brain tumour removed. Just a few days after the symptoms were discovered, he went and had surgery. 2 years later, doctors gave him the go-ahead, and he is still playing today.
A crazy one at number 8. Monica Seles, the 19-year-old Seles, was a top-ranked women's tennis player heading into 1993. Now, when an obsessed fan of Steffi Graf rushed onto the court in a live game and stabbed her in the back. She recovered quickly from her physical wounds, but obviously the psychological trauma took a bit more time, but she returned back into the game in August of 1995, where she then won her very first comeback tournament in the Canadian Open.
Gotta love it. Kurt Schilling, Major League Baseball pitcher Kurt Schilling, injured his ankle against New York in 2004. The doctors, they stitched it back together to prevent that right angle tendon from flopping around. Can you believe it? Well, he was back out on the pitch a few days later, and he helped his side win that series game 3-3. Unbelievable performance.
Absolutely crazy. Mr. Tiger Woods, of course, known for many scandals, but 2 weeks before the 2008 US Open, Woods suffered a double stress fracture in his left tibia and tore his anterior cruciate ligament. Very, very hectic talk.
Big ones in sport.
It was a serious injury, but anyway, he was told to rest and recover, but instead he told the doctors, I'm going to play in this US Open and I'm going to win. 5 days later, in the 19th hole,
he did it.
Playoffs, he wins it. Tiger on the money.
Yes, you can, Mr. Woods. Then we've got Andy Blythe, centre Andy Blythe, dislocated a disc in his back, which pierced his spinal cord, just millimetres away from severing it completely. Well, years later, after learning to walk again, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro to raise funds. Unbelievable.
Wow,
unbelievable.
Man. All right, but this one, Niki Lauda. Now, racing driver Niki Lauda awoke from a coma and returned to race at the Italian Grand Prix just 39 days after a near-fatal crash at the 1976 German Grand Prix, which engulfed his car in flames and burned most of his right ear off. But he survived and went back into the game again.
One of the greatest drivers of all time, I think. Then we've got Eric Abidal. Barcelona's Eric Abidal had a cancerous tumour removed from his liver in 2011. 2 days after the team doctors discovered it, obviously, in his system, just 7 weeks later, the French defender was back on the pitch for a Champions League semi-final game. And then, of course, he went on to play the next fixture against Man United.
Yeah.
Hey?
The next one nearly killed me. I think it nearly killed this guy as well. Clint Malachuk, who's a goalie in the NHL, the National Hockey League, playing for the Buffalo Sabres in 1989. Now, he was when an attacking player, because he's actually a goalie in the team, and the guy got into him with his skates first, and he actually slit his throat, right? Blood gushed onto the ice, and it was estimated that if the blades had cut 3 centimeters or millimeters just higher, it might have ended his life right there on the ice rink. But then he returned 4 days later into the game.
And here, the ice hockey players exist on a different level completely, man. There can be only one. At number 1, the Rolls-Royce of fullback, Springbok legend and World Cup winner, Andre Joubert. You might remember this if you're as old as us cats on this couch. Playing against Western Samoa, he had his hand broken. That was unbelievable in the 1995 World Cup quarterfinal. He went under the knife that same night and was back on the field to play against France and the All Blacks, and of course be victorious as part of that 1995 World Cup winning side. Man. But he was in the competition chamber in between each one of those games. But you weren't going to tell any of those players at that stage, listen, mate, you're missing your next game.
Back in those days, they were tough as nails, man.
Unbelievable. But that does get you pumped up. If you are wanting to get yourself back into shape for summer, this is how far you can come back from.
I hope you enjoyed that Tuesday Top 10.
The new improved Parmalat Fabulite fat-free yogurt.